Thanks very much, lads, for joining us on stage. You enjoying it so far, Jason?
Yeah, I particularly enjoyed Mickey there. Mickey was our manager in 1996, and I just said to him there, it's a pity we didn't listen to him back then. He had some great insights, but listen, like us all here, we're here to learn, and when you see a guy like Mickey and how passionate he is about coaching, about sport, I think it's a great kind of testament, and again, he's a great example of what sport is all about.
Jason, you always said to me he was ahead of his time. That stands true, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like you can see the ideas and the concepts Mickey had when he took over Dublin in '96. I suppose there was a more traditional way of coaching football, and it was the typical way. Unless you were on the side of the pitch vomiting, it wasn't a tough session. And again, Mickey came with a totally different concept, totally different mindset. I suppose as well, the team that he got involved with at that stage, they just won an All-Ireland, so it probably was going to be a challenge to listen to a different voice. But in fairness to Mickey, he went on with Vincent and obviously with Pat Gilroy to have All-Ireland success. And obviously we wish him all the best with the hurlers.
Yeah, Tom, he's back with the hurlers now. I saw you laughing your head off during his speech there. The GAA is a mad world, isn't it? Like a guy who's achieved so much in football can now switch over to hurling and not an eye blinked. Everybody just thinks it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Damien, I suppose, listen to Mickey there. It was actually well worth the trip up just to listen to that, because I'm a selector with the Tullaroan under 7s at the moment, and we're going back training Monday night. And
a double weight session, Tom.
The drills, first of all, are gone. We're going straight into a 15-a-side match for about 2 hours.
And then break it down into 2 7-a-side games.
Yeah, but I tell you, I wrote down a bit of stuff on the phone there. It was very impressive, especially his whole thought process around drills, because like the one thing I would have picked up, say, especially in the White Heat Championship, when you're against the best teams, there's no time for thinking. You're basically working off instinct. You don't have that time to say, will I hit the ball here, will I hit the ball there? You just have to go what you were doing all year long. And that's why, like, when we were with Kilkenny, like, thank God, Cody loved games. And he just wanted to watch us playing hurling or manage us playing hurling. So we had a game for 30 minutes, 40 minutes every night. But where it helped us then was when the big matches, the big semi-finals, the big finals, when there was a lad chasing you down, you had that millisecond, as Mickey said. You don't have time to think. You do what you've been doing all summer or all for the last few years. So it was great to hear him saying that, because I suppose now I'm getting into the world of young lads involved there now, so you're getting involved in coaching young lads. So it's to try and not tell them what to do, I suppose. Just get them into them situations, let them go at it, and hopefully they pick it up.
Your young lad, Finn, is he playing? Is this your first step into management, Tommy, for want of a better description?
I know, I was at it last year. We're
under 6s.
Yeah, undefeated. And we're undefeated as well, so it was a good start. So, I know, and we had, it's funny, like, we're under 6s, but we had 1 or 2 3-year-olds as well, and another maybe 7-year-old playing as well. So I suppose our whole thing was really, like, especially at that age, like, we just want them coming down, maybe having a bit of enjoyment. But the whole thing was, you're trying to, as Mickey said, you're trying to pair them off into maybe, at that age, you sometimes have 1 or 2 lads that are just brilliant, that will dominate. So sometimes you have to break it off into maybe small little mini games so that the little 3-year-olds are getting a poke as well, So we'd have the weaker lads, maybe, I wouldn't say weaker, but lads of the same, I suppose, skill levels playing against each other. But again, it's just great to hear Mickey, because, he's doing it for, through Gaelic football, soccer, now hurling, with a lot of success, and especially he was learning off Hefo. I was only looking at Hefo did it tonight on Mikko's programme. So very impressive again, like, very successful guys, and you're trying to pick up off these guys. If you pick up one thing, it might lead you to winning stuff.
When Brendan Cummins retired from senior hurling with Tipperary, he said that the next week he wanted to go out and train his club, and he wanted to take a group from underage all the way to 21 and senior and try and win a county title or a divisional title with every age group. Now, Brendan could be here as we speak. He wanted to get the conditioning right, the ball work right, the skills right, and he felt that would fill the gap for him, having left inter-county hurling. On his first session down in Ballybreakin Grange or the Arfinnan pitch, after 7 minutes he had to call a halt to training. There was a huddle of young lads. They had found 3 or 4 worms in the ground. And I think Brendan had to reassess his goals straight away, fairly quickly. Tommy and Jason, when you stopped playing for your county, and I know how much you put into it, how tough was that initially? You go first, Tom.
Yeah, well, I was only reading an article. Paul O'Connell was saying yesterday. He was saying a professional sports person dies twice. The day he retires from the sport and when he actually does die. And I'd agree with that. Now, I haven't, I suppose, come across that yet because I'm still playing. But I remember when I was still hurling, I was asked to be a selector with Tullaroan under-21 team, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I was like that, I had the bug. I was mad to go train a team. So I went off anyway, was a selector and enjoyed it. But there's nothing beats playing. And I'm so happy now because maybe I'd be retired by now. But now I want to stay going until hopefully 6 more years until I'm 40. I want to still be playing because there's nothing Damien beats playing. It's just that feeling of, say when you're going training, so we're going back now in a few weeks, it'll be all running. But that feeling of just tearing into training, leaving everything out there. So you're going out with the dressing room on the way home and you're on a high. You might have been paddy last, you might have been at the top of the group, you might have been in the middle. But when you give it your all, you just go home with this satisfaction, this enjoyment. Next day you go out, you do something else. And that's the feeling that playing gives you. And that's the feeling that I think is very hard. And that's why we're lucky we have the clubs to go back to. It's very hard, I suppose, to match that. And I don't think management or coaching will ever fulfil what it's like to play. Like to go into a ruck, whether it's down in Tullaroan or in Croke Park in All-Ireland final, come out with the ball or catch a ball. Like you come down, you feel like you could walk on water. You're never going to feel like that again. So, like Brian Cody and Martin Fogarty is here as well. He was a selector with us for many years. They loved what they were doing. But there was one thing I always got off and that they'd love to be doing more than that, and that's play themselves. I'd say, if there was one man short, they'd love to drop in there and play half back or full back. So I think anyone that played the game will say that.
Jason, you love the game so much that when it kind of half ended for you, you refused to accept that. You fought your own battle for a long period of time after Pat Gilroy released you from the squad to try and fight your way back onto that. And that just wasn't because there was a gap in your life. You felt you could do a job for the team and you saw where the team was going as well.
Yeah, well, I think, I suppose, first and foremost, obviously delighted to share our stories. I suppose it's how we can add value to the people that are in the audience. And I suppose the first word in it is think it. So when you're coming up with your coaching thoughts and your philosophies, you're coming up with your thoughts. How did you arrive at those thoughts? You arrive at them from your experiences of either playing or coaching or in life. That's where you start. That's going to be your philosophy, and you'll move that through. So from my point of view, yeah, I love sport. I love GAA. I remember being on the hill on my uncle's shoulders out there in 1983. I remember I had a different type of GAA background. I didn't have that attachment with a club early on. I went down on my summer holidays down to Ballyhay in North Cork, played under 14 hurling down there, and I still, one of the best buzzes I have was playing the game, Clash of the Ash, the hurley breaks, in my best Cork accent, roar, hurley! And the selector coming over gives me the hurl and he goes, now you're hurling, like that. And that to me was the buzz, and that's the excitement I have when I think about GAA. So that was what got to me, I suppose, interested and motivated with sport. And all through my playing career, I wanted to be the best I could be. And I kind of, in the early years, I got a bit of success early and then had a lot of failure after it. And there was times for reflection where I kind of said, listen, you're not going to be doing this all your life. You want to do as well as you can. You want to be the best you can be. And I kind of made a promise to myself, kind of in my mid-20s, that I want to become the best player I can be, and the day that I'm not improving, I'm going to stop. And now that wasn't with the inter-county setup. I still felt that I could still play, and I continued to kind of give everything I could up until about 2013, when I was probably about 36 or 37. But I remember playing a game. I remember a specific instance where I had the ball and I took the wrong option, and I said, no more for me. And I walked away, and I was happy because I knew that I wasn't going to get any better.
Then.
Yeah.
When you decided, Tommy, that enough was enough, and I know how much hurling means to you, did it take long for you to think to ring Cody, to ring Brian, to have a chat with him? And traditionally, these chats wouldn't have taken too long. You wouldn't have expected much going in. Can you describe that process to us?
Well, I didn't have to think about it too much because I had my mind made up from April, let's say, that year. So my last year was 2014. But I always said, I suppose the thinking behind it was, I always said, and probably shouldn't have said it, but that I would retire, I would give it up whenever I was dropped, whenever I wasn't playing, because like it was brilliant winning all the All-Irelands. And like winning is, 99% of it really, because that's what gives you the addiction and that's what gives you the buzz. But it's playing, like you just love playing. And I remember my last year, I went back, the older you get, the more you train, the more sensible you get. And I went back in November, running about 3-4 times a week, and came back very fit and all that, but sure, the young lads were doing it as well, so they're still miles ahead of you. So I spent November, December, January, February, March, April, so 6 months, and I played something like 2 games. So I said, I don't care if he picks me and I get hurler of the year, I'm gone, and that's it. So my mind was made up because I wasn't being picked, and it was very easy, and I just told him one night, and conversation lasted, I don't know, was it 3 seconds or 4 seconds? But listen, it's like the old days, the old, suppose, fathers. They didn't have to mollycoddle you or encourage you, like you just a tap in the back and you felt like $1 million, and that's the way Cody operated. And we knew he didn't need to come over and clap me in the back or anything like that. Like we knew, I suppose, the way we both thought about each other. And
because Joey Boylan was a massive influence in your life, and he took a hands-on approach to you, maybe arm around the shoulder with all your teammates and stuff like that. Brian Cody wouldn't have been like that, yet, Tommy has serious respect for Cody, and I know Joey Boylan was a massive influence on you. Could you tell the audience, Jason, what Joey did for you and how you have so much respect for him as a coach?
Well, for people who don't know, Joey Boylan would be a basketball coach. He was involved in St. Vincent's, which was the school that I went to. And a very simple thing, like as a coach, players will rarely remember what you say or do, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. And that was the one thing that I got from Joey straight away, that you saw that he cared. And for me, coming from the background I did, not looking the same as everyone else, coming from a one-parent family, that meant an awful lot to me as a player. And again, we spoke a lot about trust this morning. Like he showed me that trust straight away, and from there I felt I had the confidence and I had that security to go on and flourish. So again, I look at Joey, I look at Mickey Whelan, I look at all the coaches out there, and I've had some good ones, I've had some not so good, and you harness all the things that resonate with you as a coach. It's not about me being Jim Gavin or Brian Cody or whoever else. It's about me being the best version of a coach that I can. So like today and yesterday, we're hearing some great stuff, but it's what resonates with you, and that's one thing in terms of a coaching philosophy. And I suppose the context of me, I've been very lucky to be involved with the senior team the last few years, but for the last 4 or 5 years I've been involved with Dublin development squads, and we've had them from under 13 level, and they're now going into the minor cycle next year. And I've been very lucky to have a lot of great mentors that have been involved. And at the start, we kind of set out with our vision. Okay, what are we looking for? And what does success look like? And a couple of things we kind of said. We want to develop the person, not the player. Okay, we want to support the person, not the player. And a key question we asked ourselves, which probably as coaches, do we do it enough? What does success look like? Now, it's very easy to get caught up in saying, oh, well, winning a minor title or an under-16 blitz or whatever is what success looks like. But from our point of view, it was more sustainable. We see success as those players playing with their clubs in 5-10 years' time. When they're exposed to a development squad, they get habits and they get like cultures and values that they'll bring back to their clubs and kind of influence their players, the players that they play with in the future. So again, that's, I suppose, when you go back to your question about what Joey did for me, he certainly influenced my perspective as a coach in the future.
And I'll come back to you on that in a second. At one stage in Jason's basketball career, I think they suffered a narrow defeat, and Jason was in the changing room afterwards, and he was distraught. And for 30 minutes, Joey Boylan just sat beside him, Tommy, and said nothing. I can't imagine Brian Cody doing that with you. But where is the secret of Brian Cody, Tommy, in your opinion? Because we see, like, Brian would give very little away to the media. From his players, there mightn't be much ever said, but there has to be huge respect there. And what would be the fundamentals that Cody has transferred down to you over the years?
Yeah, well, I suppose it starts off, Mickey Whelan was talking about earlier on, and you have to have the skills coming in first of all. So Like every Kilkenny player that came in, like you have to think we don't play a whole lot of soccer or Gaelic football down there. So 6-7 days a week, when you're a young lad in Kilkenny, you're playing hurling. This is, I suppose, before PlayStations and computers and all that. So as I was inside that time on telly, it was a country practice or Emeraldale Farm. So we spent as little time inside in the house. We were 2-3 hours every evening out there. So we lived with our hurls or playing whatever, just running around, but mostly it was hurling. So we came into Kilkenny set up all with the skills of the game. So Cody's big thing then was managing us, like, you know, and like go back to the start. Like I was playing with primary school with Tullerone, and Brian Cody was the manager of St. Patrick's de la Salle. So what's like everyone asks you about Cody, he has two things in my opinion that he has. As Mickey Whelan even said, it's not just one thing, it's many, many different things. But if I picked out two things of Cody, first of all is his pure love and enthusiasm for hurling. You go down to, we'll say, up to Dublin, and there's a school there that are brilliant at hurling. A lot of the time it's from maybe a guy from Tipperary that came up teaching there, a guy from Cork, a guy from Kilkenny. If you're down in Kilkenny, it could be a school that might be good at football. It's because there's a teacher there from Mayo. So what does it all come down to? The teacher or the coach or the manager loves what he's teaching, loves what he's coaching. So Cody, first of all, loved the game. And when we were, different things came up in the media and that about sacrifices lads were making, should be paid and that. And he'd bring you in straight away. What sacrifice? What are they talking about? Everyone wants to be in here. You're the 30 lads that are lucky enough to be in here. You should be delighted. So instead of going into we went into the meeting wondering how much money we were going to get. coming out and giving out like we're sacrificing our whole lives for this, and yeah, we should be, someone might be after telling you, and I'm sacrificing everything. Going out of the meeting, you're the luckiest lad in the world. So, like that was Cody. And the best one, it'll always live long in my memory. I've told it a few times. The 2012 All-Ireland final against Galway, when they got the free there at the end. But if you're coming, well, listen anyway. But
Go on, Tommy. Tell us more about that one.
So they drew the match, and we were devastated after the game because All-Ireland was there and there to be won, and we wanted it. And it was the end of the season, and I was playing half-back. 2 or 3 balls came down my line. I should have picked them up and did things. And so I was thinking of that. Henry went for the pint from the penalty. Probably was feeling he should have went for the goal. Jackie gave away the free. A few little things like that. So there was so many things going through your mind after drawing the All-Ireland. So I went into the City West anyway, and Cody pulled us in anyway. And straight away he said, I can't believe the way you're thinking. Like, cop yourselves on, he said. He said, you're the luckiest lads in the world. He said, it came out then that the replay wasn't going to be next Saturday. It was going to be 3 weeks' time. So this is worse again. You have to go back train for 3 weeks. So he was saying, lads, you have to wait 3 weeks for an All-Ireland. Think about it. Go back to when you were a young lad. You'd wait 3 months. You'd wait 3 years. He said you'd wait 30 years for the chance to play in an All-Ireland final for Kilkenny in front of 80,000 people. This is what you dreamed of. He said, you're going back training with the lads. You're going to have great crack now for the next 3 weeks. So again, we went into the meeting feeling sorry for ourselves. We went out saying, Jesus, we're the luckiest lads in the world here. Thank God Barry Kelly blew Jackie for that free. So that was the first thing, with Cody. He loved the game, and again, he loved games, and players love games. There's only so much drills you can do, and he loved games, and we love games. So that was the first thing. The second thing was belief. So, like, you'd be talking about psychologists. How has he never had a psychologist with Kilkenny?
Sure, he was a psychologist.
He's the greatest psychologist probably ever in Cody. He was absolutely brilliant that way, and he had a lad that wasn't too far behind him in Martin Fogarty there in front of us. So, he was brilliant. So he gave us fierce belief.
Were you afraid of him?
What?
Were you afraid of him?
I was afraid of Noah and Damien. God, we weren't afraid of him, but the only thing is...
You weren't afraid of Brian Gavin anyway, because he's split him wide open.
We weren't afraid of Brian Cody, but I was afraid he was going to drop me, so... Cody going out before a match, and I read Alex Ferguson after he retired there, and they were talking about before the matches, what do you say before the lads, and don't ever give the lads doubts going out, he said, because you don't want the lad going out for a ball and then wondering, the lad he's marking is better than me. The only thing Cody ever said to us going out for a match is go out and take over the field, or go out and, beat these guys. He never said watch yours left, watch his right. So you going out onto the pitch felt that you're the best player or you're the best team going out onto that pitch. So the belief he gave you was unbelievable. And he backed it up then. It wasn't just small talk.
Tommy and Kilkenny went on to win numerous All-Irelands. When you won in 95, you were taken away into a sea of madness. Do you ever look at the likes of them with 9, 10 All-Ireland medals and say, how the name of Jesus did they come back year after year? When you saw what happened to you after 1 year, you were taken away everywhere.
I'd say it'd be a lot easier coming back after winning than it is losing. What did you say? You had 9 All-Stars, Tommy, so that's 9 between us. No, as a player, I didn't, unfortunately, I didn't have the career or the success that I would have liked to. And again, from a coaching point of view, I think that fuels where I come from, because I'll always be grounded in that like as much as it's great that Dublin are in a purple patch at the moment, there is absolutely no guarantee. People thought that Kilkenny's dominance would go on forever, and now they're in a position where they're being challenged. So that's the cycle of sport. So I suppose as a coach, it's important to stay grounded in your beliefs. And I think, I look back, and I did look back on my sporting career, and I looked at it as a failure. But now, on the other side of it, and I look at it as a coach, I can see so much resilience, the passion, the motivation to go back year after year, and kind of that'll be the fuel as a coach, because I'm only starting out on this journey. I have a long way to go before I get to where I'd like to, but it'll be the fuel that'll motivate me based on what I did in my playing career.
When Jason said to me that he saw his career 14 years failure, I was taken aback now, I have to say, and I can see how he quantifies it, but would you be surprised hearing something like that?
No, because I suppose, that's the way players think, but he shouldn't be thinking like that, and I think he's probably learning now as a coach that he probably uses that now as motivation in his coaching style, and, he can bring on players and that, but, it's like when you said there with your 9 All-Stars, 9 All-Irelands, whichever it was, and you don't think like that, because it's like, it's often said, you hear the top coaches or top managers talking about the next one, because when you actually come back and think about it, it is. I don't remember them. I just want the feeling again. So I retired in 14, so the last big day I had was 2012. I didn't play well that day, so I didn't enjoy that. So 2011, which was 6 years ago, was the last time All-Ireland final you feel like the king, and that's the feeling you crave. So it is about the next one. It doesn't matter whether you won 1 All-Ireland or won 9. That doesn't matter. It's trying to win the next one. And that's the thing, I suppose, that winning, when you do strip it all back, it is nearly all about winning. Whether that's winning the All-Ireland or winning that battle and training session with the lad you're marking, it does come back to winning. Or if you're doing a run, getting to the end where you give it everything. Towards if you half go, you feel bad going home, you feel kind of guilty. So it's just that winning feeling, I think, is what you crave. Say, we played a 7-a-side tournament during the summers now, the clubs, it's mostly inter-county. So there's about 2 or 3 months where there wasn't many matches going on last summer, and we played a 7-a-side tournament just to keep things ticking over until our own. And when you're in the league, you can't really enjoy it because everyone's saying, well, you have to win the championship and so on. But with this 7-a-side tournament we had in-house, it's only, 20 or 30 of us involved, it was the end. If you won it, you were the champion in that. And we won it. And it's still the best feeling that I had since that All-Ireland. Because no one could say, well, keep your mind on the championship or don't let that get carried away.
Need to go back watching the country practice. Jesus,
yeah, but that's the feeling. So J.O., you see, is getting that now because he can forget about, he's winning All-Irelands now with Dublin and he's getting that feeling again. So
Well, the one thing I learned from it is that, again, you can only control the controllables. Winning, success and failure is outside your control. All you can do is prepare as best you can in terms of how you prepare the team and that. And again, as a coach, that's all you can do is prepare the team as best you can. Whereas, sometimes teams or coaches are judged on whether they win or lose. I thought what was interesting, and it was spoken about last night and Brian Cuthbert had the pyramid. Again, I'm conscious that we were lucky enough to play inter-county hurling football. Like as Brian Cutford said, that's the very top of the pyramid. And I suppose an observation, a reflection that I would have from watching kind of juvenile club stuff and development squad stuff is that you do see a lot of inter-county practices at developmental stroke underage club structures, and I would question whether that's the appropriate approach to have at that level, bearing in mind, I suppose, the sustainable success is having guys playing with their clubs long term.
That's a good point, because a huge amount of our coaches here are from clubs. Would you recommend then, Jason, that they would look at just maybe the kind of practice of going out, performing your best, and as much as this sounds naive, not worry about the end result? Because we are getting a little bit caught up in results from, geez, there's development squads nearly at under 13, under 12 level now in some counties.
Yeah, and it's very hard because, again, you have to kind of remove your ego to the side. And again, like simple philosophies about just kind of winning the hearts and minds of your players. Tommy has spoken there about what Brian Cody did, and all he did was he won your heart and mind. And I think as coaches, I think that's the biggest influence you can have on your players. Michael Quirk spoke about intrinsic motivation. Like you shouting at a guy for half an hour or an hour, okay, you might motivate him for that session, but what about the other 167 hours in the week? And I think the challenges as coaches is what influence you can have when they're not with you, as opposed to what influence you can have with them. So I think that's a really important thing. And then being consistent about what's important in terms of fairness, about teamwork, about behaviours, as opposed to just playing the guys that are really good and know that they'll get you the result. Now, you might say that, okay, we might lose games, but like the reality is there's a significant dropout. My reading of that is basically kids are getting to a stage where they can make a decision themselves. They realise, well, I don't want to do that anymore, and then they cut loose. So again, if you can empower the players, regardless of their ability, I think there's a bigger opportunity then for long-term kind of involvement with the club. Not about winning, Tommy, sorry.
I'm trying to think now, am I going to be controversial here now or not?
Go on, you might as well.
Well, just, it's a balance. It is a balance, but I do still think that it does ultimately come down to winning, because, like, I'm involved, as I said, with the under-7s. Now, I'm not saying that you're shouting at them to go out and win the match, but, like,
Jesus,
they don't understand. No, they don't understand, I suppose, winning the match or losing the match, but if you see a young fella scoring a goal, maybe, or rising a ball, like, and does it right, like, he's delighted. He's over the moon. So I'm not talking about winning a match, but winning things. Like, I do think it's very important, because when you're going through the motions and anything, like, how much enjoyment do you actually get out of it? Like, when you give it something everything and then you achieve it. So if you're trying, say a young lad there, 9-10 years of age, trying to hit the ball with his weak side, he's doing it, and suddenly maybe after 2 or 3 weeks he does it. He's delighted. He'll run over to you and say to you, Tommy, look at this, I'm able to hit the ball. And to me, that's brilliant. So I think on one side, you definitely don't. It's definitely important, because you don't shout at lads, oh, come on, we need to win this. But maybe in the back of your head, you do, because ultimately, that's where their happiness will come from. If they win something or score a goal or win a match, like, how many happy teams have you seen going around losing every year? There's not too many of them going around, you know. So, like, another thing is the whole grading system. Like, we with Tullerone were playing senior for many years. We were losing, for 6 years we spent winning 1 match a year. And the spirit, the whole life was gone out of the club. We were relegated, and it was the worst thing in the world at the time, we thought. But we went back intermediate. We haven't won the county final, but we're winning matches during the year. And the whole place then, lads are delighted to come down training. So it's nice playing at your own grade. Do you know, again, so you're competitive. And I understand the whole concept regarding winning isn't everything. You kind of don't get that across to the players, but it is important to win. Like.
Yeah, I think, and I think we're on the same page, we're just slightly different. I think what tends to happen is players and coaches judge themselves on results. So if you win, you're great, and if you lose, you're brutal. Like, Dublin have had success, but they haven't performed very well over the last few years, and that's the goal, that's the motivation. But I think, taking your point, if you said at the start of the game, okay, we're looking for 5 people to puck a ball off their weak side, and that's a win. And then you go. So regardless of the scoreboard, you're judging it based on something that's going to improve them. That's winning in my mind. You know, it's not based on what the scoreboard is. So yeah, it's nice to win and it helps confidence and all that. But I think there's a bigger picture, which is making sure that we're improving in a sustainable way as well. Yeah.
Are training sessions too structured at underage level these days, Tommy and Jason?
It's just trying to get the balance right, like, you know, and see, you're talking about underage, you have to teach the guys the skills of the game. So that's, say, in our sport, hurling, it's hooking, it's blocking. Like, I'm 34 years of age, and I only learned last summer how to hook. I was at a coaching seminar with DJ Carey below in Mallow. And I was actually never shown how to hook a lad. And I was useless at it. And I was just saying, if only I had been shown that maybe 20 years ago,
you got to 10
been hooking lads left, right, and centre. But you have to coach the guy, so you do have to teach the guy. So I think a small bit of that maybe for 10 or 15 minutes. But like, I'm just trying to think when I was a young fella. When I was a young fella, if a coach did drills for 40 minutes, you were devastated.
That's what I mean. You want to play games.
So maybe 5-10 minutes, show him how to coach. Well, I like the way Mickey Whelan was saying, maybe show him in the game type situation, because I think at any age really, but especially I suppose when you're young, you just want to play matches. So
how do you balance that then, Jason? Because you're in charge of development squads. They're at a fairly high level, but they probably want to play internal games themselves, but you probably have to get them into a Dublin way of thinking also.
No, we just want them to be kids. We want them to have fun. We want them to enjoy going out. And it is a challenge because there's so many books with great drills and you have cones everywhere and poles and all that. But the reality is kids just want to play. And again, a big challenge for any coach at any level is to step away. Just step away. And again, it's amazing, like, and again, from an observation, you see so many coaches and they're in the middle and they're roaring and they're giving instructions. If you take a step back and just watch what's happened, it's amazing what you'll pick up. And it's amazing what feedback then you can give to the players in a positive way after. Whereas if you're caught in the middle of something with a drill, with a whistle blowing it, you're not going to see anything. So who's actually benefiting from doing that drill? So again, less is more in a lot of occasions.
In every club in Ireland, throughout the country, there's an under-12 team that might win a title and do the same at 14 and 16. There's also a case whereby you might have one or two free spirits in that team. There's also a case, Tommy, where a couple of lads over the years might get carried away, and every club needs their own players. With Kilkenny, the likes of Cha and John Mulhall might have spread their wings and gone off different directions, but most of the time you kept a tight-knit squad together. How did you stay grounded? And I'm sure lads like Mulhall and Cha had a role to play in that squad as well. Where do you find the mix, Tommy?
Yeah, well, the boys were vital to the whole setup. Like, Mulhall was a character, as you all know, and he was very much vital to it because things are so serious. There has to be a balance, so you have to have the crack and you have to enjoy it. So we were lucky enough, Brian and the management team saw that. So like, a lad kind of messing and joking wasn't cast aside, or he wasn't like dropped for the next day. He was seen as a vital part of the whole setup. Rackard Cody is a kit man very much on that side of things, and you need that going around because lads are working hard all week. They need to go in and enjoy it as well. So you're serious with the enjoyment. What was the question again?
Yeah, how did you how did you stay grounded
stay
as well?
Grounded,
because,
sorry,
like,
yeah.
You know how easy it is to get carried away.
Yeah, well, I was in school with Cha. Like, Cha was, he's brilliant. Like, he's playing golf now at the moment. I think he's nearly off scratch. I was in third year in Kieran's when Cha came in, and we used to play this game ball wall. And there's a few lads who were very good at it. But when Cha came in, he was very small at the time, little blondie lad, came in and he used to beat all the 6th years. He was the king of wall ball. He was just brilliant. Looked at his exam results. They used to be posted up on the walls. Cha, top of the list. Cha was just absolutely brilliant. And it was a pity that he finished at, I think, 27 or 28. Because if you go back to them years he had from 0, 6, 7, 8, he got young hurler, but I'd say if he had to be an older age-wise, he probably would have got hurler of the year one of those years. He was absolutely brilliant. How do we stay grounded? Like, grounded always comes from the top, I feel. Like, we had a county board there with Ned Quinn and the lads, Barry Hickey and a few more, that if you're talking about like the great Kerry team, the great Dublin team now, the greatest of their generation, I think they're the greatest county board, I'd say, of the whole GAA's generation. They're absolutely brilliant. They're all brilliant at what they do. And I remember as a minor, I didn't play well in a semi-final. We're going to play in a Leinster final. I was getting me tickets off Ned Quinn, and he said, you better play well Sunday. So like, here I was going in thinking I was a great lad, and I was told straight away, you know, you need to pull your socks up. So you're grounded from that age. It has to start from the top. So you come in then and you're under Brian Cody and that. And it didn't matter whether you were there 5 years or 10 years. If you weren't doing your stuff, you were gone. And this is with common sense now. It's not just black and white, like. But if you were messing or doing things that were taken away from the team, you were gone and you weren't picked. If a young lad came in, 18, 19 years of age, if a guy at 27, 28 years of age, who never played a game, came in and was playing well, he was picked. So that kept everyone on their toes. And we went in, say if we were going back in January, the All-Ireland, no one spoke about the All-Ireland. It was about this training session. Tommy, you're marking TJ, you're marking Richie Hogan. You know, you better be the man today. You're playing a Welsh Cup game against Offaly or Laois Sunday or Wexford or whoever it is. We want to win this. So it was always the next day. It was not 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line. It was always the next day. You want to be the best player, the best team then. And that's what just kept everyone grounded. And young lads coming then as well were given their chance. There's too many times you see a lad, say he was man of the match in last year's All-Ireland, going through a bad spell then this year. But he's left on the team. There's a young lad bursting his gut, playing out of his skin, and he's not being picked. So how does that motivate anyone? Towards an hour set up, the young lad was picked. And on he went. And that drove on, not just that young player, but that drove on a player maybe that was going through a bad spell. So say March, April, May, he wasn't hurling well. Suddenly he comes into a bit of form, June and July. He knows he has a chance of playing. And Cody picked him. And his management team, like, it wasn't just Brian. And like Walter Welsh, All-Ireland final replay, example of that. So he backed it up. So that's how we kept us grounded. Yeah.
So that was nearly the reason for your longevity over over all the years that Brian has been there. That not being sure of your place, somebody coming into form and getting the crack at it.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Like, you only have to look at Bernard, or J.O. might tell us about Bernard Brogan in a minute, but like, you look at Bernard Brogan at whatever age he is, bursting a gut to get into the team. If he was on any other county in Ireland, he'd be picked, you know. Brogan, to us, the outsiders, absolutely a brilliant player. And, you know, I think he scored 3 or 4 points in a few minutes in one of the games there last summer. But he knows there was probably someone going better than him in training. So that's why he maybe wasn't being picked. But I think it starts from the top, and the management were the reason. And the county board and everyone involved were the reason why we were able to stay going.
Jason, would be something similar in Dublin, like we saw in Dublin football players like Mark Vaughan over the years, free spirits and stuff like that, and they would have come and made a big splash. Success might not necessarily have followed in that time. Is there room for the free spirit based on what you've seen all the way up from development squads right through to the current senior panel in that?
I would hope so. Like when I played GAA, I wasn't the biggest, and there was a place for me on the pitch. No different. The big guy generally played full back, or the athletic guy could run up and down the pitch. So that was the beauty about Gaelic games, that there was a place for every boy and girl, regardless of shape or size. So it's the same thing with that individuality. Like, there's certain positions that you can play, and there's more leeway. Now, I agree that it is probably getting more structured, maybe too structured in terms of tactics and defensive systems and all that, and it probably is taken away from that kind of creativity. But the reality is there's no right or wrong how to play the game. You know, you just, whatever people think is the right way, they're entitled to do that. So I think it's really important that you do obviously allow that individuality, but at the same time, I'm sure there was a set of behaviours the likes of Kilkenny had that lads knew, yeah, there was a time when you can enjoy yourself, but there's a time where we knuckle down. And I suppose, like in all teams, it's that culture, it's that set of behaviours that's going to determine whether that team performs well on the day.
And I might come back to you in a second just to get more on your coaching vision. Tommy, you're a bit like Paul Scholes. We didn't hear a word from you for about 15 years, and now you're plastered all over the media with huge opinions on everything. You're a great addition to the media world. Did you think long about joining the likes of Newstalk or Air Sport or whoever you're doing a bit for, and what approach then did you decide to bring to it? I personally think you're just being yourself, but what were the thoughts that went through your mind when you were first approached?
Yeah, well, I suppose the punditry and stuff is grand, like, and this kind of stuff, it's fine, like, you know, and I do it, and that, you know, someone asks you to do it or whatever, but the game day, I love it. I just absolutely love it. So when I'm off the ball or whoever on a Sunday, and say the match is at 3:30, like, I treat it the very same as if I'm playing myself. So usually if the game's at 3:30, I usually come on around 3:10. So as always, I'm using my experience from playing, really. So I don't care what's happening. If I get a flat tire, whatever happens, right? Is in my head is 3:10. That when they call me from Dublin to say, Tommy, you're on, I'm ready to go. And I suppose, like, I come from a GA background. I've been listening to the radio, watching the television from 8, 9 years of age, and like what I enjoyed most was, you know, when you're listening to me Hall of Mahurtig and you want to be at the game, you want to be there, you want to go for, like, I was watching hurling games in the mid-90s, so Limerick were my favourite team at the time. I don't know any Limerick lads here today. I was Gary Kirby or Frankie Carroll or Steve McDonough or any of the lads. I used to love them. And half time when there was a Munster Championship game or an All-Ireland, we were gone out into the garden playing matches. So you get, you know, maybe play to 9 pints or something, you had about 10, 15 minutes. So that's what them guys did for me and our family and lads around. So I suppose when I'm commentating on match day, I just want lads that are in the car maybe say, geez, I'd love to be at that match, or I'd love to go out for a few pucks. So that's all is in my head, really.
I was driving down to cover a match down at Cork, I think, and you were commentating. Kilkenny 21s were playing Derry, I think, in the All-Ireland quarter-final. You nearly made me turn off the motorway to go over to Thurles, and then I heard the scoreline. Kilkenny were up by about 39 points. I was there, Jesus, this man would sell sand to an Arab. Are you enjoying it, Tommy, more so than anything? And would you feel under pressure to maybe give an opinion on a guy you would have played with or played against?
No, and like I don't really want to get into the whole opinions, and that's why it's the match day I love. I love the history of the game. Like, I love, like, say, when I do my research for them games, like, I put a lot of work into it now. Don't get me wrong. I don't just turn up and start talking. And, you know, I ring around and I enjoy it thoroughly. Like, and I remember I think Cork were playing Clare in the Munster final last year. I was never at a Munster Championship game before last year, by the way. Gee. First match then I got to commentate on it in them little boxes, and it was just epic. But I was doing the research on it, and there was a Munster final back in the 40s. I know there's a few Cork lads maybe here that or Limerick lads, and I think it was one of Mick Mackey's last games, I think, and Christy Ring was coming on the scene, or it could have been that at a while anyway, but the two boys were against each other, and the first final was called, it was either the first final or the replay, was called the Great Bicycle Final, because everyone cycled to the match. I think there was no diesel or petrol around or something like that. And I just thought this was amazing. Now, I didn't get a chance to say it on the radio. I was waiting for it. But maybe I will next year. But but that's what I love. Do you know what I mean? And I was doing the air sport with the Kilkenny quarter-finals.
Anthony Daly and Richie Hogan.
Was Anthony Daly and Richie Hogan, and I had to do the research on the clubs. And I found out that Brian Cody's mother, and
be careful now, Tommy, for Christ's sake.
Brian Cody's mother and Mick Fennelly and Colin, their granny, so were sisters. And like, I just thought this was amazing. Like, you had Ballyhale, like Mick Fennelly's grandfather, I think Kevin Senior, like Ballyhale that time were Knocktofer and I think it was Knockmylan and Ballyhale, I suppose, itself. And he formulated that into the one parish. This be young Mick Fennelly's grandfather. And he was the main man that drove Ballyhale. A few more, I'm sure, they were there at the time. He drove them. And like, if you go back and look down through that lineage, like, there were 7 Fennelly brothers on the first great Ballyhale team that won all the Club All-Irelands and all the Kilkenny Championships. Go down again then, and you have all the current Fennellys. You have the Mullins who are involved now. Then you go over to Mullinavat, Liam Fennelly's young lads are driving Mullinavat, who are flying it now as well. You go over then and look at Brian Cody. So his mother then was the sister of Kevin's wife. Brian Cody's father drove the village. Himself and Georgie Latty were going around pulling young lads out of houses in the 70s or whenever it was. And I just thought this was brilliant. So I'm not really, going back to your question, I'm not...
I asked the question about 20 minutes ago.
It's not, I don't want to go out and say, listen, Damien Lawler was brutal there Sunday. He's getting absolutely roasted, because I remember one day Sherlock was giving out about me in the television, and me granny doesn't like him. So she was upsetting him, so I don't want to be upsetting any grannies or grandfathers around the place.
I don't even know what question I asked him at this stage. Jason, the passion that nutcase has beside you, you have all that in spades, and you can channel it through your coach, and that's a lovely position to be in, isn't it, finally?
Yeah, it's great, and like I suppose that's the privilege that we all have in the room, and it's about how we can be the best coach that we can be. And again, it starts with that heart piece about why we would do it. And again, we could listen to Tommy all day about why we do it, and that's what our kids, the boys and girls, need. They need to have dreams. They need to have that engagement of why they'd want to play the games. And I think, again, as an observation or reflection, I think if coaches, if you can reflect a bit more time on the why would the kids be at the session? Why would they go away from the session and want to improve and be better, as opposed to what you're doing, as opposed to spending all your time getting your cones out and your drills ready and having a great session? I think that might be a better place to be, because again, GAA is unique. We're not soccer, we're not rugby, we're not any other sport. We're the GAA, and the GAA as well. Yeah, we want to be the best teams we want to be, but there's also the connection, there's also community, and there's definitely a lot of enjoyment and crack as well with it.
And the thing I take from what you just said is, it's not what you say to a player, it's how you make them feel. Final word to you, Tommy. The quest goes on now. You want to go back and win something with your club, and it's not about Tommy Walsh's ego, it's about the lads you're playing with, it's about the village, the club, and really it goes back to what we're all about in this association too.
It does, Damien, and I think Peter Canavan is up next, and he was one of the main reasons I took this job here today, because I wanted to hear what he said, because he spent a lot of years trying to get to the holy grail of winning that All-Ireland with Tyrone, and I don't know, was he 30 or 33 when he finally done it? Lost the All-Ireland against the Dubs there. J.O. was playing in 95, and he stayed going, and you think it's never going to happen, and suddenly it happened. So I'm going to stay going and going until it happens, and hopefully maybe win 2 or 3 of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I had a sheet of questions that I never got to ask. 45 minutes with Jason Sherlock and Tommy Walsh. Unbelievable. Thanks so much.